So let's talk about women-led businesses and growth.
Do you aspire to an uncomplicated and fulfilling way of life? I'm Diane Squires, aka Deanne. That's what all my friends call me. I'm an island woman living on the island of Barbados and walking my path to a big and simple life. Walk with me and learn with me. Welcome to the Island Woman Podcast.
All right, let me set the stage. There are a lot of women entrepreneurs in the Caribbean. In fact, according to a 2018 International Labor Organization report, and I've cited this one before, it's called Women in Business and Management Gaining Momentum in the Caribbean. And the study tells us that more than 30% of employers are women in more than half the Caribbean countries for which data is available. So with a third of women being employers and presumably entrepreneurs, we have to talk about ways to elevate their businesses, our businesses, not just for us to thrive, but for our countries to thrive. To help me discuss this today, I am very, very happy to welcome Shauna Marshall. Welcome, Shauna.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
And to give some background on who Shauna is, she is the founder of SMB Consulting Services, which is a Caribbean-based boutique firm helping MSMEs grow through strategy, structure, and sustainable systems. She has over 12 years in MSME development. That's micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And she's also experienced as a tertiary level educator. She supports business owners and organizations in scaling their operations, strengthening their structure, and driving long-term growth. Through SMB, she also hosts Business and Bites MSMEs Unite, a signature event celebrating and connecting MSME leaders across the region on MSME Day. And that's actually how I met Shauna. Her mission is to contribute to building ecosystems that empower Caribbean businesses to thrive through training, strategy, and execution. So welcome again, Shauna. I'm so happy to have you. But before we get started on the heavy stuff, quick question for you. If you had to create a Caribbean survival kit for a woman entrepreneur, and you could only put 3 things inside, what would be the first thing? What would you pack first?
Tough skin.
Tough skin?
Running a business in the Caribbean. Whew. So in the Caribbean, as a woman, so running a business as a Caribbean woman, you literally have to weather the storm. So we're looking at cultural biases and funding hurdles, and sometimes being misunderstood because we're very emotional, as they say. So you have to have tough skin.
I like that. I would never have guessed. That's what you would put in survival kit. But yes, I get you as a Caribbean entrepreneur myself. All right. So let's get into the meat of the matter here, because that same ILO study that I cited explains this. It says that while an increasing number of women are employers, women also make up a significant portion of own account workers who run small and micro enterprises. And in most countries in the Caribbean for which data are available, that accounts for about 30% or more of the people who are these small micro enterprise owners. They're women. So let's talk about women-led businesses and growth. Ready?
Ready.
All right. We're almost kind of looking at a scenario where we have a culture of solopreneurs and side hustlers in the Caribbean. But from your experience working with businesses both here in Barbados and elsewhere in the Caribbean, how sustainable is that model, that micro enterprise model for us women in the region?
Honestly, for a time, side hustling can feel like sustainability, It's flexible, or so we think. I always tell persons, we look at getting into our own business for flexibility. But I always say it's not really as flexible as we may think. So it can seem like sustainability in the beginning because of flexibility, because we are generating some income and it is low risk. But really in the long term, some things I always have to ask my clients, what are you really hoping to achieve in this business, from this business? Because really and truly, it can only be sustainable if you are okay with constantly trading time for money. And that's what the side hustle model can look like. You're trading time for money. So for women, especially, it's a balancing act, because we have to balance family in many roles. It could be balancing family as a partner, as a parent, and even a child, because it gets to a point where we as children now have to take care of the parents. We have to balance between main jobs and the social lives, our social life, because social life is still important, and then still that passion project. And in each of these areas, we are expected to give 100% for all of them. So, but what I've seen in my work with MSMEs is that this side hustle model that can be okay in the beginning, it gets to a point where you see persons now being overwhelmed, and then you have many persons who are burning out because we're trying to keep it all together. Me, myself, in the beginning, trying to keep it all together, keep it all afloat. And because of how we jump into business from survival, we tend to start this side hustle without much of a structure. And that's when this is SMB came into play, because even a micro enterprise, and when we say micro, even though there's not a real universal definition in the Caribbean, you see micro enterprises as a business with under 10 employees. So even though we may be micro, in order to scale, we still need to have some form of strategy, some form of structure, some systems, and ways of scale planning, so that we can move from barely managing to truly thriving. And because you are mainly operating in survival mode and not sustainability. So side hustles, they're okay in the beginning, but even those things need to begin with a plan, a proper plan. And that's the difference in how we remain micro or side hustle, or how we grow into large businesses, our approach.
Do you think a stable or sustainable business is one that kind of gets you over that hurdle of trading time for money? Just explain that to us.
If you are not in a position to make salt today or cook food today, does that mean that your business cannot generate revenue?
Yeah.
What do you have in place for that? Because I always say we do not want to, but as business owners, you should be able to get sick. Or you should be able to take what we would love. You should be able to take a vacation, knowing that in that time where you're not there, your business is still able to float, to generate revenue. It's still able to handle customers. So that's what we look at trading time. If you have to be there in order for your business to generate some level of income, then we need to take a look at what are your systems? What systems did you or did you not put in place? You want to be able to put these systems in place that if you are not there, things can still happen. So I went on vacation last year, first time in 8 years.
Really, first time I saw your LinkedIn post, so that I was
excited. And that's because I did not put my systems in place from earlier. And I spent the last 2 years making sure that those things can be. So because I went on vacation for, I think, 2 weeks, did that mean that clients cannot book? No, because there's the booking app. It's very simple. As simple as a booking app. They just know they can't book tomorrow, but things can still be happening.
Things can still be happening.
The payments are coming through. There are persons who would have been working on the back end for the time that I would have been out, and they would have been handling administrative stuff. So it still means that things were able to happen. Everything could not happen, but the business did not have to stop. Right? So we were still productive. And those are things that help us to become sustainable in our business.
Yeah. But the thing is how people think about it, and I guess the mindset. You did talk about that thing of maybe getting into business because of necessity, or it's a side hustle, so we're doing a side thing. So from your interaction with MSMEs, do you think the majority of people are thinking about growth as a priority, or are we still kind of in the mindset where we're thinking about putting food on the table? What's been the focus really?
I really hope by now that we are thinking about growth. We've come through some hard times. But for many, especially women, I find that the initial focus, and it's changing. I think I'm seeing some slow changes, but initially the focus is survival.
Yeah.
So you want to feed the children, you want to get the children through school, got to pay rent or the mortgage, and all the other million and one bills that exist. And then you still want to get a little financial freedom. So I won't say that growth is always the first thing on our minds. On their mind was always growth. Once that basic need is handled, or those basic needs are handled, and they get a taste of what is possible, that's when the shit happens. So that's when they begin to think about scaling. So this is a part of why I love my role as this business strategist and who focuses on MSME development. Because at this point now, my role here is to meet them where they are and stretch that vision. So maybe sometimes we begin this business, my little small business. I don't like to hear that term, by the way. Little small business. Hey, but this is the time now we get to stretch that vision. It's no longer a little small business. Stretch it. And now we are able to help them move from this is how I survive to this is how I expand and build a legacy. So in essence, growth becomes the priority after there's been some clarity and confidence and self-esteem now begin to kick in.
Mm-hmm. And you think you say that's changing for more people. More people are actually kind of pursuing or coming to people like you to pursue that growth, or at least to get the clarity to do it.
Yes. I feel like there's a slow shift where persons are actually getting into business more now because they want to and not just out of survival. So very often in the Caribbean years ago, we fell into business because we did not have a job and the bills were there, right? We were let go from some jobs, but bills still needed to be paid. So mouths to feed. And so we just jumped in or fell into business. But I feel like now it's becoming slowly, very slow. It's becoming a part of person's mindset. Females' mindsets are shifting where persons do actually want to have businesses, growing businesses.
All right. So I want you to kind of identify the top 3 things that a person who wants to make that move from solopreneur. So in my case, I'm a solo consultant, an independent consultant. So if I'm thinking about moving from that to having an enterprise, what are the top 3 things that I should be thinking about or doing? And we can tackle those just one at a time.
Okay. Number 1, get clear in your direction. What is your direction you're looking to take your business in? And we're talking about the top 3, but there are many other things. So I'll stick with the basics. A lot of business owners are, like I said earlier, they're busy. And they're just all over the place. They're busy. But we look at it, we're probably running in circles. So what is really the direction that you're looking to take? So we're busy, but not necessarily strategic. And sometimes you just have to slow down and get back to the basics to ask, what is my business model? Who exactly am I serving? What makes me different? What systems will help me grow without burning out? And that's the kind of strategic clarity that I like to help MSMEs develop. So you have the visuals like the business model canvas that you hear persons talk about and the different growth frameworks and guided roadmaps because you want to have direction. I always tell persons when you're looking to go to town, if you get up in the morning, depending on where you're coming from, and you are heading to town, let's say 8 o'clock in the morning, you know that we are going to plan the best route to get into town, avoiding the traffic and get into at a proper time. And because of that, because we plan ahead, even from the time we say, we're going to wake up and move a little earlier, right? We plan ahead, we're able, majority of the time, to meet that goal of getting to town at a proper time because we planned. We knew the direction. If we just jump in without sense of direction, then we end up rambling at this roundabout and we're going to take the side road, but that side road usually has traffic too, and we did not end up before because we did not take the time to think about it. And we spend more time turning around than saving the foot.
Turning around and butting up on walk.
I bump on more traffic, right? But sometimes you will dig up. So with all these things, so it's the same thing for your business. Get clear on your direction, your roadmap. And it's very basic. We like to get very fancy, all these extraordinary things that we like to talk about and putting into businesses and so on. Yeah, still the basics. Number 2, I believe strongly in structuring your operations. We do not like redundancy. We do not like waste. And like I said earlier, most solopreneurs are running everything from their heads.
Okay, stick a pin. Let's explain for all those people who might not know redundancy. So when you say redundancy, what do we mean?
So when we look at being redundant, there are almost things we do not have to do, but we do them because we're already doing them somewhere else. So I'll give an example with a situation I had a few years back where I realized that my clients had more than one person dealing with their finances. So we had a person dealing with payroll, one person dealing with bookings, we had one person dealing with some other part, and I remember what it was. And then you want to go and look for someone for admin. Okay? As a solopreneur, as a big company, that may be fine. As a solopreneur, you can have an administrative assistant who does bookings, who receives payments. You may want someone separate to do payroll, that's fine. But when all is said and done, we had 3 things that were being done. And because of that, you realize that you had to be printing reports different times to send to each person, because each person's going to look for something different, right? So you now have confusion coming around. One person is doing something, and then the next person is doing something similar. And really and truly, if it's a case where we are doing 2 different things that complement each other, that will save us more time.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to structure our operations in such a way that we do not have tasks being redundant. Again, I like to focus on productivity. We do not want to slow down the process. You don't want to be in a case where there's no productivity happening, because then the business is not efficient, and which means it can get to a point where it's no longer sustainable, where it's not sustainable. And most cases, if it's not sustainable, then it's not profitable, because all your resources are being wasted into doing all these different things that have been paid for one.
Okay. All right. So let's backtrack and get back on track on those 3 things that we were going to look at. So you said the first thing was just identifying your direction. And you mentioned tools like the business model canvas. And then number 2 is
structure your operations.
Structure the operations to avoid redundancies as one example. And then number 3 would be
build your brand and team.
Really? Yeah. So tell me why that makes your top 3.
Because that's getting back to the basics. Now you have something to show. You have your systems in place. You have professionalism in place because you don't look disorganized. And you're able to build up that brand that people can trust visually, emotionally, by your experience. I think that you are now able to delegate and outsource and build up that small team. All of that is a part of scaling, being able to get more by doing less and recognizing that it is very challenging, sometimes almost impossible to grow alone, to scale up your business alone.
Yeah.
So when we do things like that, then we realize the shift is real. So from hustling to building something with longevity and impact, that's important, and impact.
Agree. You know, I like your 3. I feel like maybe I would add 1 because I limited you to 3, which I know is unfair. But I think a big one for me right now, and I think this is true for maybe a lot of service entrepreneurs who are also maybe came from employment where they weren't necessarily doing sales. I think a big one for me is sales, like keeping that sales pipeline going. What do you say to that?
Very, very true. That's one of the things I witnessed. I remember I went to Essence Fest in July.
You did? Nice.
And I went to their supermarket place, and it opened my eyes a lot. And then I realized sometimes, we are very laid back here in the Caribbean when it comes to sales. I don't know if it's pride because we're very prideful.
Yeah.
So we kind of get shy. We don't want to talk to persons about our business. We want everybody to come to our business. But if you are not talking about it, if you're not selling it, we don't know you're there.
Yeah.
And so I find that many of us do fall down on that the selling aspect of our business.
I was one of the people who I think fell into a little bit of a trap of depending on referrals because those were the things that came. And I also did content marketing, which really did help actually.
Yeah.
Talking about your expertise and so on. So that definitely helped. So that was selling in another way. But I think sometimes some of us need to be fine with doing more of the hard sell so that we get those structures working, we get the bookings going, we understand what works, what doesn't work. Talk about it. Talk about it.
You don't want to be rejected.
It's true though. And yeah, I think you have to be willing to hear those no's. I think one person that I follow, I'm trying to remember her name now, but she's like, make your mission to hear 50 no's because that means that you have to go reach out to 50 people. And you're also then going to be you're getting into the practice of putting your offer in front of people and you're going to get a yes at some point. And I tried that already, I think more than once. And the thing is on the third person, I got a yes. So it didn't even take 50.
So then you can start over. You can restart that and try for 50 again.
Yeah. But I think sometimes as women too, we may feel a little bit overwhelmed by, okay, if I do grow this, am I going to be able to manage? What else in my life would have to change in order for me to grow this business? How will I have to change? Is it going to be 1,000,001 things now instead of just 1,000,000? Is it just going to be more for me to manage, right? And I think part of it maybe is being fearful of growing from just you, the solopreneur or the side hustler, to somebody who has to now take on more. How do you feel about that in your experience? Is that something that people say openly or feel, you think?
Close to that. People will say they usually at the point, yes, they're overwhelmed. So there's so much to do. They don't know how they're going to get this done. That's why I always talk about streamlining your operations because it does help. There are tools out there you can use that it's almost like an assistant to you, and it help you in some ways. Like I mentioned, there's the booking. Currently, I never like the fact where I have to say, okay, a client calls and they want to have a consultation. And I say, okay, how's Tuesday even? You can say, no, that's not free from me. Can we do Wednesday? And I have to be like, no, I have a meeting. How is Thursday? No, you just go on book. So you get to more. Yeah. So streamline your operations time to help you because then you feel freer. You feel freer because there's less back and forth that you have to do.
Agree. So we need to have our direction, a structure, and then we have our branding and team. And those are kind of the top 3 things, along with many others that Shauna and SMB Consulting would be able to help you, whether you're a female entrepreneur, a male entrepreneur, anyone in the Caribbean. So, Shauna, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Island Woman podcast. But before you go, just tell our audience how they can reach out to you or to your team to learn more about SMB Consulting.
Sure. So you can find us with our website, www.smbconsulting.co. And you can also find us on socials. You can find me on LinkedIn, Shauna Marshall. You can find us on IG, Consulting SMB. You can also find us on Facebook, SMB Consulting Services. So we're there a lot. You can Google us. We're on Google as well.
Great. All right. So perfect. So you have Shauna's information. You have SMB Consulting's information. They can definitely help you with making that move from solopreneurship to enterprise, or with helping you to structure your current enterprise for growth. And that's what we want, right? We don't just want to be surviving, but we want to be thriving businesses because we can employ more people or we can produce more efficiency and productivity. So that is it for now. If you've made it to the end of the episode with us, thank you so much for taking the time. And if you liked it, share it with a friend, leave a comment or both. If you watch this on YouTube, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Remember to click the bell icon to get notified every time a new episode goes live. So this has been episode 8 of season 2, the Island Woman podcast. I'm your Island Woman, Diane Squires, aka Deanne. Until next time, peace.